Rings of Power is back for round 2, and it's still managing to piss off everyone who gives a damn about Tolkien's work. Amazon's billion-dollar fanfiction is getting torn apart by audiences, but it's the Critical Drinker's review that's really got them losing their minds. This guy's got Amazon and their Hollywood media lapdogs in full meltdown mode. Why? Because he dared to call out their garbage for what it is. And instead of fixing their show, Amazon's brilliant strategy is to try and cancel the drinker. Good luck with that. People keep agreeing with him because, shocker, he's actually right. Season 1 was a dumpster fire that lost 2/3 of its viewers in just 8 episodes. But did Amazon learn? Hell no! They doubled down on their woke agenda, hiring only female directors for Season 2. Not because they're the best for the job, mind you, but to tick some diversity box. Meanwhile, they're labeling anyone who criticizes the show as racist and sexist. It's gaslighting on a massive scale, and it's only making fans angrier. Let's take Critical Drinker for example. For those of you who don't know, Critical Drinker is too big. So big he's hitting them where it hurts, their wallets. Remember The Acolyte? More people watched videos ranting about that train wreck than the actual show. And guess who was leading the charge? The Drinker! Amazon's not stupid. They know his reviews can tank their precious projects. So what do? They go full damage control. Hit pieces, cancel attempts, the whole 9 yards. They're pushing this narrative that he's some kind of racist, sexist boogeyman. It's the same tired playbook they use on anyone who dares criticize their precious diversity shows. But here's the kicker. It's not working. The Drinker keeps gaining followers because, surprise, surprise, people actually agree with him. He's saying what everyone's thinking but Hollywood doesn't want to hear. And it's not just angry fanboys, we're talking mainstream critics, journalists, even big-time streamers like Asmongold. When you've got that many people from different corners all saying your show sucks, maybe it's time to listen. But nah, Amazon would rather stick their fingers in their ears and pretend it's just a bunch of bigots hating on their masterpiece. Meanwhile, they're the ones actually disrespecting Tolkien's legacy. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so damn infuriating. Speaking of infuriating, the Rings of Power Season 2. You thought they couldn't possibly butcher Tolkien's work any worse? Well, hold on to your lembas bread because they've somehow managed to outdo themselves. First up, the Orcs man. These aren't your daddy's orcs? Oh no. Amazon decided that these mindless, evil creatures needed a makeover. The Critical Drinker put it best. There's literally a scene where an orc begs his commander not to send him off to war before hovering protectively over his orc wife and baby. What in the actual? Orcs with families? What's next? Orc daycare centers. Tolkien wrote orcs as a malevolent goblin race, males only, wholly evil. They're not misunderstood minorities, they're a force of nature. In the Two Towers, they get spawned, slapped with a helmet, handed the sword, and their first question is, what do you want me to kill? But nah, Amazon thinks we need to empathize with them. An orc saying goodbye to his wife isn't deep, it's comedy gold. Remember Galadriel, one of the most powerful and wisest elves in Middle-earth? Well, apparently Amazon thinks she needs a bad boy face. They're pushing this weird, pseudo-romantic tension between her and Sauron. You know, the embodiment of evil in Middle-earth. It's like they're trying to appeal to some twisted enemies-to-lovers fanfiction fantasy. As the Critical Drinker says, at this point Tolkien must be spinning in his grave so fast that you could hook him up to a dynamo and power the entire national grid with him. And he's not wrong. This show isn't just bad fantasy, it's a complete bastardization of Tolkien's work. Alright, let's get real for a second. You know what's truly mind-boggling about this whole Rings of Power fiasco? It's not just that they're butchering Tolkien's work, it's that they're doing it with such smug self-righteousness. It's like they think they're improving on Tolkien's vision, as if some Hollywood hacks could outdo one of the greatest fantasy writers of all time. Take this whole orc family nonsense. It's not just lore-breaking, it's completely missing the point of what orcs represent in Tolkien's world. They're not meant to be sympathetic. They're a metaphor for the corrupting influence of evil, for crying out loud. By trying to humanize them, Amazon's not being clever or deep. They're just showing how little they understand the source material. And don't even get me started on this Galadriel-Sauron cosmic connection bullshit. It's like they've taken one of the most powerful, wise characters in all of fantasy and reduced her to some lovesick teenager. It's not just bad writing, it's disrespectful to the character and to the fans. You know what? I think this is why the Critical Drinker's reviews resonate with so many people. He's not just pointing out plot holes or bad acting, he's calling out the fundamental disrespect these adaptations have for their source material. And that's something that really strikes a chord with fans who are sick of seeing their favorite stories mangled beyond recognition. It just angers me that this always seems to happen, bro. It's like some companies do this on purpose. The show even seems to have forgotten that Middle-earth isn't some gray area where everyone's a little bit good and a little bit evil. Tolkien wrote a world of clear moral lines. The good guys are good, the bad guys are bad. It's not fucking Game of Thrones. But Amazon's writers seem to think they're smarter than Tolkien. They're trying to blur these lines, make everything morally complex. Newsflash, geniuses. Sauron isn't some misunderstood anti-hero. He's the embodiment of evil. Period. And don't even get me started on how they're screwing up the timeline. Tolkien meticulously crafted the history of Middle-earth, but Amazon's just tossing events around like they're playing temporal Jenga. They're condensing thousands of years of history into what? A couple of seasons? It's like they think the audience is too stupid to handle the actual scope of Tolkien's world. This isn't just bad adaptation, it's cultural vandalism. They're taking one of the most beloved and influential works of fantasy literature and turning it into a soulless, generic fantasy show with a Tolkien coat of paint.